Good evening and welcome to the Laughing Monkey Music Show. Today we have on Martin Miller. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good, good. Glad you could make it. I'm a fan of your playing. You're all
Thank you very
over.
much.
I pretty much see you on Instagram mostly, but on YouTube, and your webpage has some really good stuff. So I want to direct people to check you out so that we talk about you today and a lot of different stuff you do. You
All
yourself a
right.
guitarist, producer, songwriter. You're endorsed. You have a great guitar with Ibanez. I love Ibanez myself. There's some really good stuff. Could you give us a tiny bio? I don't need to do the Wikipedia thing. Just a tiny bio for people that don't know who you are before we jump in.
So yeah, I'm Martin Miller from Leipzig, Germany. Um, Mostly known as a guitar player, but I dabble in other things: production, composition, singing, band leading, YouTubing. Like my core skill is the guitar, of course. But yeah, I try to keep myself. I try to keep my monkey brain entertained by branching out into different things. And yeah, been playing guitar since I don't even know, maybe 8 years old or so. But
Wow.
gotten serious a little later on. Went to conservatory, then went to college, got a degree in guitar and tuition. Later on, was teaching at college for a couple of years. I'm endorsed by Ibanez Guitars. I have a signature guitar with them. I have a YouTube channel with 650,000 subscribers as of now, I think, a little less. Um, so
That's
yeah,
insane. That's
dabbling
insane.
in wonder in a multitude of things.
Those are some insane numbers. I mean, you are though super talented, super modest, and really enjoyable and really interesting guitar sound and tone you have.
Hmm.
Um, and actually, you're a fantastic singer. You could just be a singer, and not just like a guitarist that sings. Because there's
Well,
you probably hear that, right? Like just a guitar, you guitar, you sing, and then you're two separate things.
there are two very different skill sets that have nothing to do with each other. You can be the best in the world at one and the worst in the world at the other.
Right.
Yeah, it's. I started relatively late at age 31, but took it very seriously and hit the ground running basically
Yeah.
by taking professional voice lessons, and still do to this day
You
quite
sound great.
regularly.
On your website, you guys do a lot of singing and co-singing. And how are your sessions put together? Because afterwards, the
Mhm.
links are here, guys. I want everybody to check out the links that aren't aware. So fantastic. I love the Queen
Mhm.
melody, the song choices. Um, I think when I first saw you, it was probably on YouTube was the Andy Timmons thing. You popped up
Oh yeah.
in a
One of
studio
my favorite
session. It
players.
popped up into my feed, and then from there
Mhm.
it was the rabbit hole backwards into your other stuff.
That's
Right?
that's kind of the plan. That's what I'm going for.
You know.
Lure people in with one video and then have them discover, oh, there's all this other stuff. That's kind of the idea behind it. Yeah, the way I put it together, or we put it together. Obviously, there's a big team involved, but I'm kind
Yeah.
of the brains behind it. Would be me. Um, it's like, say we do a medley. I would put together a demo,
Yeah.
an MP3 that is a mixture of studio recordings, live recordings, and original recordings of my like transitions and stuff. I put them together. I sent them out to the band.
Mhm.
Then starts the tedious process of trying to find uh, 3 days, 3 days in the studio together. That's really the hardest thing, is to get everybody get 14 people synced up with each other.
14 people. Wow, is
Sketch.
that the video crew also? Sorry to
Yeah,
interrupt you.
so that would be a 5 to 6 piece band, 4 to 6 piece band
Yep.
usually. Um, about 5 people operating cameras,
Hmm.
one person doing the audio recording, another person doing my father usually doing the whole data backup and labeling, and that really important stuff that sounds really boring but is crucial to a project like this.
No, I
Uh,
admire it all because I went to school for video and audio, and I'm aware
mhm.
of every aspect of work you put into it. The quality of the picture
Yeah,
and the
it's
sound
it's it's
is
quite daunting.
outstanding.
And there's a director, and it takes a lot of people. So we end up being usually like 12 to 14 people when we have a guest, and or it's mundane stuff. I mean, we need somebody to pick up the guests from the airport and stuff like that. You know, there's so many angles involved. We need somebody who gets batteries for our in-ear systems once we run out in take 3. People tend to be very quick to comment on something. Oh, this sucks. This doesn't have any feel.
Are you serious? You get that? I mean, I get stupid stuff, and I'm a guy
yeah.
this, but
Does,
you
right?
should get that. Oh.
But I urge people to just come tag along for a day and then rethink what they're saying online, because it's a tremendous amount of work from the idea to the finished product. Like uploading a video, making a thumbnail for it, marketing it, putting it in the right spots. It's just so much involved. Man, the editing. I do all the video editing and the audio mixing myself.
There's a wormhole for you right there.
I'm currently finishing up another massive project that took me like 2 months, and you see all these gray hairs. That's because I'm a control freak and I tend to do everything by myself.
It takes forever. I can't even imagine what it takes. I mean, for a small show for me that I do it, I edit it, put it together, do the guests and everything myself. Small show, and it takes a lot. And then just trying to market it and put it out there on your own and promote it. It's a lot.
Yeah, it took quite a few attempts to get me get me in front of the camera.
That's the easiest part, though. That's the easiest part is typing words. But the actual effort, though, and then somebody go online, though, and insult something like that is really insane. Because I've heard things, I'm like, oh, whatever. I'm like, well, when you do your show, when you put it together, you do all the things yourself. You show me how it's done. Show me how you do it better. Okay, cool. But you know what I mean? People are we're all putting stuff together. It's almost for free for them on YouTube. They literally click on it to get free content. A musician, a celebrity they like, all kinds of songs that you put together for them. And what are you complaining about?
And then they'll complain about ads and stuff like that. I'm just wondering, you're watching a video that you didn't pay for on a platform that you didn't pay for, and you complain about ads. Really?
You know how you do that? You pay for YouTube like I do. You don't get ads. That's what you do.
I pay for YouTube.
I do too.
And there's nothing wrong with paying for YouTube, because somehow everybody's okay with paying for cable TV, but somehow YouTube, the whole world of videos, of online streaming videos, has to be free for some reason. Yeah, it's bizarre, isn't it? How quickly we get used to certain luxuries.
It's insane. I pay for all that stuff. Yeah. I mean, I pay for regular Zoom, like for full-on Zoom and stuff. Like, everybody complains about the free media, and there's costs that you got, and then. On top of that, the time you spend doing that, you have to actually do other stuff. I mean, how much are you don't really practice as much now. Your practice is probably part of the work you do, because you also teach. Now, let's actually talk. Are you taking on anybody currently?
No, please don't inquire. My schedule is filled up to the brim. I'm actually trying to slow the teaching down a little bit, because I tend to not finish projects that my new record has been in the works for 4 years now. It's done. I'm just looking for the best way to put it out. And then there's my new videos and all that stuff. It all takes time, and every lesson I give is an hour less spent on putting myself out there.
Well, there you have it, everybody. No lessons, but you actually have some like programs to learn. Some other media.
Yes,
that's the whole point. Is you have a lot on your website. I want to gear everybody towards it, because there's a lot of stuff for guitar lovers, for listeners, and for players to learn.
Yeah, that's the plan. So I can still teach people indirectly when I don't have the time to commit. Because essentially, if you're teaching one-on-one lessons, you're selling your time, and time is a very limited resource.
I can see you doing bigger, like a big streaming episodes or something, and get something different, get a group, so you can do a one-shot type of deal.
Well, personally, I'm not a huge fan of that. For one reason, is you're talking into the void, so you don't really know who you're facing, and you don't get the feedback from the student. And second of all, if I do something like a tuitional product that is for a large number of people to see, I personally like to polish it. That's why oftentimes I will do like a PDF, a book with complementary videos, as opposed to me just sitting down for an hour and talking like freeze,
Well, that's really
free
good. I
form
mean,
talking. Because I really like to choose my words carefully, especially when it comes to like definitions and explanations and all that stuff.
well,
Yeah.
respect for that. It's not. I'm saying it's not a bad way if people do it casually, but that
Oh,
makes sense
absolutely.
because
And I
all
do
of your
that.
stuff
I do
is
that
high
on
quality.
Patreon. I do
Okay.
that on Patreon every month. I sit down with my patrons. But the cool thing is nowadays I use Discord, so those people are actually on camera with me and they can talk to me directly, and I can hear them play and
Okay.
give
Well, can we
direct
talk
feedback.
about your Patreon then? Because I want to talk about, can you
Mhm.
talk about what is it? What are you offering, and what is it about for people if they join it with you?
Well, it's really to a way to support all these crazy ideas that I have, such as making albums and making videos. Because the group getting together and recording and filming something for YouTube, that would be 2 to 3 days of work would cost me about 10 plus grand, and I need to fund that somehow. Um, and that is through Patreon, and I do offer perks like transcriptions for my solos that I play, and I sit down with people on a monthly basis to do live streams, those types of things. Yeah,
That is very cool. And that's the point of this: if people support you, go to the shop, buy the merch, buy the programs,
yeah.
help support this if you really enjoy what it is. I mean, there's a lot of
It's really
time.
the best way to do it is to support the artists directly. Luckily, we have platforms like Patreon and those types of things. They've been a real game changer for small time artists like myself.
Well, yeah, I don't know. Years ago, it would have been different for you. You'd have had just gone out and tour. But you're at the age where you kind of got your leg over each side of the fence, where you got your
Yeah, and
hands in audio and video and
I'm planning to
technology.
tour next year, but to be fair, I'm 37 now, and I'm not really so much into the idea anymore of grinding it out on the road and building a fan base there, because I've done that for the longest time. I've played in front of 10 people for years and years and years in jazz clubs, and I really like the idea
Tens
that
of
by the
people.
yeah, tens of people. No, I'm not
I
exaggerating.
know.
That's literally what I
That's
did
what
over
jazz.
and over again.
That's what jazz clubs is. Funny.
Yeah,
The old
it's
jazz
it's just
joke.
it's just I guess it's the same anywhere in the world. But I'm now more into the idea that by the time I hit the road, there is an audience ready to see us play, and that's going to be next year. And I think by now we do. I just had a concert in Montreux, Switzerland, with a session band that was sold out. So that was awesome. We were headlining. So I think we're now ready to take on a tour for next year. This year is kind of tough because uh, we have three. We as society are cramming 3 years of touring into one summer.
Wow.
So there's no real need for us to swamp the market even more. So we're waiting till next year.
Well, with technology though, you've got the point now, and a lot of artists are doing now. There's more like flyout days, like a lot of the rock bands are doing it in the U.S. and stuff, where you don't have to be on a bus. And a bus costs about $1,000 a day. I don't know what it's all over there for you, but it's $1,000 to 1,400. Gas is insane, and that's every day to pay without everything else in the band. Whereas a flyout date, you can grab yourself a couple guitars and fly
Flight
somewhere.
tickets though, and hotels, because if you go by bus, if you go by nightliner, you don't have to pay for the hotel.
Oh, see, here you
So
go.
it's complicated. That's why there are people making a living off of managing these tours because it's freaking complicated.
Well, it's
And
changed.
I'm not
That's
I'm not the
interesting.
one to do that. Yeah. Yeah.
And then you have Brexit over there too. You guys have to worry about if you want to on tour on Europe. So there's that weirdness.
If we wanted to
Yeah.
go to the UK, that would have become a lot more complicated in the last couple of years. Yes, so I fancy the idea of doing a national tour first. Quite honestly, maybe the surrounding countries of Germany, just to see how it goes. I've sung live like 3 times in my life. I have to see how long can my voice keep up for a tour. So
What? Really?
I haven't made these experiences firsthand yet because I'm a greenhorn when it comes to some of those things.
What would you do for for your full set? Because with your band, like how would you mix your songs from your first album, your new stuff, some covers?
So I would strictly separate my original music, especially the new original music that I'm doing that is with vocals. That is coming up. It's not out yet, but will be coming up soon. That would be Martin Miller solo, and then I would have the Martin Miller session band. That's all the cover stuff, and I try to keep them separated. So the bands are slightly different. The sets would be completely different. I would then, if I were to tour with my original music, keep it 100% original, and with the cover stuff, keep it 100% cover music.
I like that. Very cool. That's
Yeah,
really cool.
that's
Good
that's
idea.
that's kind of what I'm going for in the future.
You have a nice clean logo too. A nice simple clean logo. The little logo there.
Yeah, that would be for the solo, and I have this little it's like a little marketing trick, and if it's the with the session band underneath, like in italic writing, then
Oh, I
it
didn't
then it's
catch
then
that.
you know it's the covers.
I'll have to go back and look at it. But I noticed that kind of stuff because once again, that's part of marketing. And when you're doing everything yourself, you want to have a logo. You got to have something that catches eyes, but it can't be over the top weird. You can't, you know what I mean?
It's all gotten way too big recently and out of hand, and so I've finally took on a team of managers. So
Yeah.
I'm giving stuff more and more stuff out of my hands. All the creative stuff is still me, um, uh, because I can't let go of that in any capacity. But all the stuff that isn't directly involved with like, making music and making videos and art, I finally get somebody to take care of it, and that helps a lot.
I would imagine that you have a lot going on with your original stuff now. Are you when you record it in this album, it's totally done? You said right
It's mastered.
about. All right.
It's
Do you play everything on it?
I sing and play guitar, and I do some keyboards, and I play bass on one song.
See,
Play bass on one song, but I like to hire expertise, and I like to hire people with a particular style of playing that I can see work well with my music, to give like that little bit of extra flavor. My music is very composed. It's not There's no improvisation in my music really. It's largely planned. Unlike the Martin Miller session band, where there's a lot of stuff that is just up for however the player feels in the moment. So my music is very constructed, but I do leave those 2% up to the player playing it to bring a little bit of their
yeah.
personality into it, and that goes a long, long way.
Your solo stuff. What would you consider your music? Your sound like a fusiony jazz, but rock, proggy.
No, it's,
I
it's
can't.
progressive rock
A prog.
slash
Okay.
metal.
Okay.
There's no jazz influence on my new record at all.
Okay.
It's I would say it's a mix of Toto, Genesis, Dream Theater, Muse, Michael Jackson, couple more influences, but something along those lines. I kind of went for an aesthetic of like if Genesis made or if a 70s prog record were made today.
Okay.
That's kind of what I'm going for. So it has some of these aesthetics, but with a more cutting, bit more cutting edge.
I just hear some jazz in some of your pieces that you play.
Yes. Hmm.
And it's not a secret that a lot of prog bands are actually jazz musicians. Paige Hamilton in Helmet, big jazz guy, big jazz player, and that's what he makes. So it does play it still over. So I was just kind of curious how it plays into your songwriting.
Yeah, there's especially the 70s prog, the British 70s prog had a lot of element of improvisation, and you listen to bands like Soft Machine, etc. They had a lot of improvisational stuff in there. Mine is a bit more. I'd say mine is a bit like 80s Toto, Genesis,
Yep.
plus or you could say Toto and Genesis on steroids, with a little extra. A little extra heaviness, a little extra grit.
That sounds awesome. That sounds
Yeah,
really
that's,
awesome,
that's kind
actually.
of what.
And you were
Yeah.
saying before I actually stepped over you, you have a video already ready too?
Yes.
Is that going to be
Video.
released prior?
I'm not gonna reveal the details, because I want to. I'm also not the kind of person who like announces a lot of stuff and teases a lot. I generally prefer to just drop a bomb out of nowhere. It's kind
That's
of
fair.
it's kind of worked for me over the years. I like when we did like one of our massive videos, or the videos with Andy Timmons. I never announced, oh, Andy Timmons is going to come, and just going to here's us playing with Andy Timmons. Enjoy, and it's like, whoa, where did that come from?
It's pretty awesome, actually. I love
It's
that
actually
one.
hard to do that these days. I think people have a tendency to tease too much these days,
I agree.
and especially with the attention span of people nowadays. If you tease 30 seconds of what you do over and over, 30 seconds is more than what most people will give you of their time.
Yeah,
So they kind of feel like they've already seen it.
I agree. I don't
Gotta be-
promote
gotta be-
anything. Like that day before, I don't very rarely put anything up. It usually just drops who I'm doing, that release, then that's it.
Yeah.
Because You're right. It's the same thing. But with releasing albums, though, and you have an audience that can prepare for it. I mean, you have a large audience that's going to be pretty loyal to helping you out.
Yes, and there will be a marketing campaign, of course, leading up to the album. But when I drop a single, it might be just out of the blue, and then there's of course a huge marketing campaign going on after that. But luckily, I'm not micromanaging that anymore, so that's good.
So you're very much a gear guy, and I'm curious when you did your the Queen thing,
Mm-hmm.
the Brian May sound was really good. You didn't even use a Vox. What did you use to get that sound?
My concept with the Martin Miller Session Band is that I do not imitate the original artists.
No, but it sounds a lot like it. It sounds good. Like it honors it. It's that tone.
I think that's the playing, because it's literally the same kind of sound I would use for. I use the same sound when I play Jimi Hendrix, when I play Queen, when I play Genesis, when I play whatever. I don't change the sound. Yeah, that's kind of the idea. I mean, I do change it around. Like recently, I've started implementing the see it up there, the IRT Studio by Laney. That sound is slightly different, but it's the same family of sounds. So, yeah, I just adapt my playing to it, but not so much the sound.
That's interesting. I have to go back.
I do have a Brian May influence in my sound by default. I always liked the kind of honkiness, out of phasiness he got in his sounds. That's something that I'm often striving towards anyway. But that's coincidence. That's the general influence I have of Brian May.
But listen to that and hearing you play. I have if you see behind me here, I have a Vox. Bad angle, but it's there.
Oh, I love Vox amps. I just got. You see the Synergy amp over there? That you know these Synergy amps?
Yeah, not a lot about them.
They come with different modules, and I have a Morgan AC20 module for that. So makes an incredible Vox sound. I've used that in the studio a lot lately, and I love it.
It is a good sound. I love it. I don't think enough people use it, which is maybe kind of good because it's still kind of special.
Oh, I adore the Vox sound. Like the Edge is one of my favorite clean tones in the world.
Yeah.
Very much. Absolutely love it.
What is your setup now for? For pedals? Are you using a certain? What are you doing for your rig?
Not a ton of pedals. I've been starting to reintroduce some pedals recently. Generally, I haven't been using pedals much in the last few years. Well, obviously, I use the Quad Cortex by Neural DSP. That's up there. It's a multi-effects thing that I use quite a lot, especially for playing live. Mm-hmm. I've been recently experimenting with a Ref G3. I've been experimenting with the Andy Timmons signature pedal by JHS. I used the Laney Steel Park Drive to boost an amp.
How's that working for you? Pretty good.
It's going very, very well. A lot of times I won't use it with the actual Laney amp because they have so much gain on tap. But if I have a cleaner amp and I want to push it a little bit, that's a great pedal for that. Okay. The Ref and the JHS, they are more like the kind of pedal you'd use if you have a completely clean amp and you would want to take it completely over the top. So it's especially the AT is a bit more of a squishy sound, a bit more mid-focused than my usual amps. So I've used that on a video that is not released yet. I've used the AT, and it's a very specific situational use, and I really enjoyed it for that.
It's interesting, and it's probably maybe a little more dorky, and I'm sure other people. It's nice to hear like when someone has a pedal, because you can't hear every pedal with every combination.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's why it's always interesting to hear what are you using for your pickups, and then what's your pedal? Because the sound you have, where's this all coming from? Because you'll never be able to do everything, Yeah,
for example, I have the Ref G3 is a high gain pedal, and the AT by JHS is a high gain pedal. The AT is very mid focused, and the Ref is very scooped. Mm-hmm. So if I have an amp that is very mid heavy by default, like the Laney L5, which is an incredible clean amp. Love that amp, but that paired with the Andy Timmons pedal is like mids overload in my opinion. Whereas if you plug that into a Fender style amp where it's a little more scooped, it balances that out perfectly. So, for example, those two pedals, to have those two pedals on your board, you can get a great a balanced high gain sound, no matter what amp's behind you or no matter what amp is in the back line. So they're kind of the opposite sides of the same coin, if you will.
And of course, obviously, you use mostly your Ibanez is your full sound.
Yes.
What's the pickups in that?
Hyperion pickups. They're on the entire line of AZ guitars.
Okay.
They're just stock pickups. They sound fantastic.
I'd love to know. What do you use it for strings
I've
gauges?
been endorsing IQS strings for like
Okay.
10 years or so.
More
Small
like the
Italian,
gauges.
9 to 42.
It's always interesting.
I've used up until 2019. I've used tens my entire life, and then I just thought I put nines on just to try, and this is like cheat codes for guitar. I love it.
It's like a superhero.
Yeah.
It was like ZZ Top or something, and Van Halen. A lot of those guys were using like sevens and eights.
Sevens.
Zappa.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's insane.
Yeah.
Think about
That's
ZZ
crazy.
Top music with the seven.
Yeah, I do not like if I'm in the studio and I want to record rhythm guitar, I'll probably prefer tens for that.
Well, I'm saying I'm just imagining that to play that is insane. So and I ask certain people, and it's like crazy.
Yeah, if you're too heavy-handed with that, your pitch will be all over the place. Not just bending, but just pressing down the frets. You got to be extremely delicate with how you touch the guitar.
I'm more like around the same as you, 9s, 42s. I'll play with different
nine
things once
seems
in
to
a
be a
while,
nice compromise.
because it's nice to do. Or you switch for a while, and you move up to 10s or something, and then you go back down again, so you feel like you're gaining some strength or something, right? It's like training, or like playing an acoustic guitar, and then you go back and play your electric.
Yeah, it's when you have tens on and you go to nines, it's like whoa for like 15 minutes, and then you're used to it anyway. So
That's awesome. So the last thing I want to talk about, so with your music, your news, and well, actually, your Patreon is one of the things I wanted to talk about. We're not doing the music stuff. I had one other thing. I'm sorry. I'm actually looking at your website because there's something I was going to ask you. So we're not doing lessons, but is there a way to people to get the tabs? Is that through Patreon also? Because
that's through Patreon, and my new record, I already have it fully transcribed. That's going to come out with an actual book, a physical book, and also a digital book, of course.
You're a
So
madman.
I have that side taken care of for sure.
All right. Well,
And my first record is an instrumental record. It's very different from the music I do nowadays, but that has a transcribed version on jtcguitar.com.
well, that's good because we all know growing up getting tabs, so we get the book of tabs, and it's never the right music for the band. You're like, the band's got their name on it. It's not even the right music. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I have an appointment this week with my transcriber, Levi Clay, and we're going to go through the whole record that he transcribed, and we're going to make sure that it's exactly how I played it.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Last thing, so with you singing now, lyrics, is that a challenge for you writing lyrics now, or?
That's my first experience writing lyrics, and my vocal teacher, Zach Ensley, he co-wrote my lyrics because I wanted to have a native English speaker involved. Because you kind of need that constant feedback if you're not a native English speaker. I find, at least at this point,
Really?
I might try to write some lyrics solitary. Yeah, now my English is falling apart. In solitude. In the future, but for this first experience, it was definitely very helpful, and I loved it, to be honest. There was no writer's block, pretty much at any point. It went so smooth and so quickly. I did some prep work that made it all possible, and that was the fact that I had sung and recorded the entire record vocally before, just singing nonsense like newsletters.
Okay, yeah.
I would just sing a newsletter. But by doing that, I already had decided on the melody, on the rhythm, on the amount of syllables, and also on the vowel sounds. Certain vowel sounds, or even certain words, we just kept completely and reverse engineered it from there. So that was really helpful.
That's neat. I've never heard anybody do that. That's really it's some serious engineering on your part. I've never heard anybody do that.
It just gives you a basic outline of what you want the lyric to sound like.
Maybe like a whole album set out, like, people go like a verse, or they, I did this verse, I scattered through this thing with a couple things here, but like to do a whole album and playing it out.
No,
like,
because
really...
I actually want to be able to listen to the music as if it were a complete product. Yeah. Otherwise, I cannot decide whether I like an idea or not. I just need to get it up to a certain standard. And the funny thing is, my wife will be able to confirm this, is that you get used to the demo lyrics. And it's actually hard to let go of the demo lyrics, even if they're complete nonsense. Really? And the funny thing is also, they tend to be really catchy, and they stick with you, and they also transmit an emotion just by the way the music is written, and by the way the lyric is delivered.
The
You
cadence
can
of
sing
it.
utter nonsense and still create an emotional response in the listener.
There's a lot of bands that have been singing utter nonsense for years, and they and they've had platinum albums
Yep, they
to
sing it.
prove it.
It's funny now that I've written my first set of lyrics. I go back to a lot of music that I like and a lot
Mhm.
of bands, a lot of artists, and I'd be like, I would never put that on a record.
Right, but it's still a good song because the melody. You're like,
Yeah,
I get it. You know what I mean?
but the
But it is
performance.
right. That's it. All right, man. Well, I just wanted to do a short little buzz today to introduce people to you that haven't been a well review, and I wanted to share you
Yeah,
with my
thank you very
audience.
much, man.
Well, I want to thank you for being on my show, man.
Thank you very much.
Everybody, check out the links underneath and check out all of his stuff, and you'll be very pleased.
All right.